DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And we are back. We are back with some more appetizers for you. Some pretty good appetizers. Turned out to be a lot. I already thought it was going to be some tasty appetizers, but I also felt that there was maybe a chance for disappointment. But this appetizer did not disappoint. And I'm talking about UFC 319 du Plessis versus Chimaev. So Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. And this was August 16th, 2025. So just this past Saturday, it was at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. And there was 20,023 and 23 attendance, and there was 11 million at the gate. So they did good. They always tend to do good with the gate and the total gate and the attendance. But this card, I wasn't really bagging on it too hard or trying to call it mid too much because of the fact that it only had one championship bout on the card, and then it didn't have, the superstar power. You only had like Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis. Everyone else is kind of are already known, but known that they're not a superstar, or they're trying to be on their way to one. Maybe with an impressive performance here at UFC 319, maybe give them an opportunity at a title shot. But besides that, we got the finishes and the stoppages that we wanted on the main card. And I don't like to gloat too much. Not me at all. But ended up getting all the picks right, at least. Not necessarily all the methods or when the rounds happened, but picked all the right fighters on the main card, the pay-per-view. So that was pretty exciting and pretty. That made it the pay-per-view a lot more enjoyable to watch when you feel as if you made the correct picks, and there were a couple that were methods as well. Not all of them. There was a couple of the picks that I got 100% right, but let's get into it. Let's get into UFC 319 du Plessis versus Chimaev. So let's get into the first fight on the card. So can I get a menu? And so the first fight on the card was a featherweight bout the first fight on the pay-per-view card was a featherweight bout between Tim Elliott versus Kaio. And I originally predicted this to go kind of similar to the way that Kaio's UFC debut ended, how it the results of that. Because I was just thinking, Kaio, he's a highly billed fighter coming over from a different organization, coming over from Ryzen, and he's a champion over there, and he's a superstar over there. But UFC is just different. The raise in competition, the height in competition, it's just different. And so it honestly was kind of wild that he got a title shot in his debut fight against Alexander Pantoja. And so, that he didn't look amazing in the fight against the best flyweight in the world. Okay, that's understandable. So maybe the UFC gave him Tim Elliott, a guy that's he's 40 years old. Is he 40, 41? Let's check here. I think he might be 41. No. Calling him too old. He's 38. I almost said just 38, but not just 38. He's 38. So you maybe thought they gave Kaio maybe a fighter of lesser ranking, less talent, and age. So Kaio Oscura, he's the younger fighter, he's the more highly touted fighter, but it's in an or different organization, Ryzen, and that's been a big trend here lately with the UFC, bringing these guys over from different organizations like Ryzen and Bellator, and having them so highly touted that they act as if they're going to come over and just dominate the whatever division they come in. And that just hasn't happened. That really hasn't happened this year. But anyways, I predicted Tim Elliott to win this fight, and I predicted it would probably end up being some type of choke, and that's exactly what happened. Kaio Oscura, he looked really good initially in the fight. He looked like he was getting off a little better, a little bit quicker, was able to defend Tim Elliott's first couple takedown attempts, and he was landing. But kind of as the fight went along, I don't know if it was just the new, unique, or unorthodox style of Tim Elliott, or just the cardio just started to go as the fight kind of uh, went by of Kai Oskarov, and he just didn't look the same as the fight progressed over like after the first 3 minutes, and definitely into the second round, he just didn't look the same, and obviously Tim Elliott started to wear on him, and ended up taking him down, and getting him in a guillotine choke and choking him out at the 4:39 mark of the second round. So, I mean, we're red hot coming out on the predictions with predicting Tim Elliott to get a submission over Kai Oskarov, and still Kai Oskarov, if he even gets another fight in the UFC, has another road bump, another bump in the road for him, and at least his UFC career, and might have to give him someone that's not even in like the top 15, maybe not even the top 20, just to see if he can even uh, fight and compete with any UFC competition at all, because UFC is definitely different than Ryzen. All right, so that was the first fight on the card. Everything going good with the picks and the methods. Let's get on to the second fight on the card. So the second fight on the card, we had a middleweight bout between Michael Page, MVP Michael Venom Page, versus Jared Cannonier. And I initially predicted this kind of with this going into this fight. I kind of thought it was kind of a coin flip almost. I could have seen MVP knocking out Jared Cannonier, and I could have seen Jared Cannonier knocking out MVP. So it was kind of like a 50-50 coin flip for me. But I start kind of leaning a little bit more towards the more eccentric and trash talking fighter in MVP. It's just a little more easy to like and love, or even hate, than just kind of a quiet figure in Jared Cannonier. So I just picked Michael Page initially to win this fight by knockout. I thought he may been able to have better striking and be faster, and maybe catch Jared Cannonier with some type of point striking, karate point strike, or catch him with some kind of counter and end up knocking him out. But that's not how the fight ended up going. It still ended up being a very impressive performance by MVP, because it ended up being just a unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 29-28, and that was over a 3-round fight, 15 minutes, 5-minute rounds. But this is a good example of a fighter like dominating in being dominating fashion in their win in a unanimous decision fight, but it still being enjoyable to watch. I think that's because it was mostly all stand up and striking. But it's like the polar opposites between the main event and the second fight on the card of just enjoyment, because it was all striking, but it was a master class by Michael Venom Page with how he was able to keep the distance and know when to go in and go out with those karate style point striking. And Jared Cannonier could just hardly really ever land anything, and off of the two, like one or two takedowns that he got or takedown attempts that he got. Michael Venom Page, he either was able to stuff any type of takedown that Jared Cannonier had it for him, and like the 1 or 2 times that he actually did get taken down, he was able to just get right back up. So it was a very Anderson Silva esque type of performance by Michael Venom Page without the highlight real knockout and without the top with Anderson Silva how he would do it. Not as much talking, but you got a lot of talking and trash talking throughout the fight with MVP and Jared Cannonier probably. I'd say the round that the judges are giving him in the 29-28, they probably gave him the second round, or not the second round, the third round, where it seemed like Michael Page was maybe running a little bit out of gas and maybe was kind of playing it safe because he knew that he had won the first 2 rounds unanimously. So he'd won the fight and was just trying to avoid getting knocked out late in the rounds and late in the fight in the third round, at which we have seen Jared Cannonier do before. But that was an impressive victory and dominant, really. All right, now then, onto the third fight on the card. We have a welterweight bout between Carlos Prates versus Jeff Neal. And hey, I just got to shout out Carlos Prates because I deal with the same issue as him. With the people try to call him a smoker, even though it's just situational with the smoker. I usually only smoke cigarettes as when I get the chance to bum them. So it's not like I'm a pack a day smoker or I always have a pack available. I just smoke casually, and if I can bum one off of someone, I like to smoke a cigarette. So shout out to a high level athlete like Carlos Prates admitting or being caught that he's a smoker and people giving him a hard time for that and him still having an impressive victory over Jeff Neal at UFC 319. And even in the press conference, the post-fight press conferences, I don't know if it was real or not, but it like showed him like smoking a cigarette. I find that almost hard to believe that was real, just because what kind of venues, indoor sites do you see, or is it allowed to smoke anymore? That was more rare than hearing that Carlos Prates is a smoker. But yeah, I got to shout out to my part-time smoker. I don't call myself a smoker. I'm just casual. But yeah, Carlos Prates ended up having an impressive victory, very impressive victory, just in the method as well. But I predicted that Carlos Prates would win this fight uh, against Jeff Neal by knockout, TKO, or knockout stoppage. And yeah, I predicted that, but I didn't expect it to be in the fashion that it was, and to say that I didn't didn't expect it to be in the fashion that it was is that the fact that UFC has been around like since the 90s, it's only happened 8 times up until UFC 319. But we ended up getting the knockout that we predicted and the win with Carlos Prates winning. But it was at the 159 mark of the first round. He got caught by a KO spinning back elbow. And I almost thought that Jeff Neal, when it happened, that it happened like right at the horn and that he was going to get saved by the bell. But Jeff Neal was just flat out on the canvas. Like he couldn't have even got up and gone over to his corner, even if he wanted to. So yeah, so that was exciting. Like you want to just add some excitement to the pay-per-view, and that it's on the main card is what you just love. You love the stoppages and all your performance of the night's $50,000 bonuses, even though the people on the prelims and the early prelims probably need it more than them. I need it. I need it more for the pay-per-view to be exciting. And in this fight, honestly, it was just kind of a kickboxing bout leading up to the KO of Jeff Neal. And you could have maybe said that Jeff Neal was getting off a little bit better, had landed the better shots, looked better in the stand-up game and in the essentially kickboxing match that we were having. And then just out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, and in the last second, of the first round. He does that spinning back elbow that just came out of nowhere and just blasted Jeff Neal and finished him and added the ninth uh, KO spinning back elbow in UFC history. So yeah, that was exciting, but it didn't stop there. We still had the co-main event and the main event. Even at that point, that you could have probably closed the book on the pay-per-view just after that crazy, wild knockout. All right, now then, on to the co-main event. We have a featherweight bout between Leron Murphy versus the highly touted Aaron Pico, coming into this bout. And I predicted that once again. I predicted the UFC veteran over the highly touted fighter coming over from a different organization, and Aaron Pico coming over from Bellator, and people talking about how he could easily be an Olympic gold medal wrestler in freestyle wrestling. And I with any of these guys coming over from different organizations, unless they've already fought in the UFC before, like, and go off to another organization and excel and then come back, maybe I'll lean a little bit with them coming back and having a return in their UFC career, and expect them to have an impressive win in their first fight. But with these guys that have never been in the UFC, never been under paper, especially pay-per-view lights, like I got to see it. I got to see it first. But Aaron Pico, he looked impressive in the first round, but he was a little bit too aggressive, and I think that's what definitely led to his downfall and him getting knocked out in this fight and getting caught, because he landed the first couple shots, landed one or two like pretty good shots in this fight, but Leon Murphy was able to maintain his composure, and even with the couple takedowns that Aaron Pico did, who was just completely not trying to hide them at all, just completely untelegraphed or telegraphed takedowns, that's just trying shooting at Leon Murphy's feet, and and unlike the knockout of Jeff Neal by Carlos Prates, you kind of could see this coming from Leron Murphy, because he started getting the range and kind of started to understand how aggressive Aaron Pico was in this fight, and he caught him with a KO spinning back elbow. So that added number 10, two on the same night of the the only spinning back elbow KO victories in UFC history. Moved all the way up from 8 to 10 after the spinning back elbow knockout by Leron Murphy on Aaron Pico at the 320 mark. Yeah, the 321 mark of the first round. So just wild. After having literally two spinning back elbows back to back, it's wild to think that you still had the main event left on the card. But shout out to Leron Murphy, because I originally predicted or picked Leron Murphy to win this fight, and so yeah, that I'm happy about that. But sorry, Leron Murphy, for calling you a decision merchant, because that was kind of the one thing that was kind of missing from your rise to a featherweight title contender, which I think he definitely solidified that. That's the only fight that he should take after this. So he now had his moment, and I apologize for calling you a decision merchant, because that's how I predicted Leron Murphy to win this fight. And that was the only decision on the main card that I predicted originally. But we got way more than that from Leron Murphy. So congratulations to him, and should be expecting to see him in a flyweight championship title bout soon. And for Aaron Pico, I think he might need to go back to the drawing board, and he may have been a little had some anxiety in that fight, and was a little too out of control and just too risky with just kind of throwing wild punches and just easily telegraphed takedowns, and that led to a telegraphed uh, uh, getting telegraphed and getting KO'd by that spinning back elbow. All right, now then, on to the highly touted main event of UFC 319, du Plessis versus Chimaev. So it's the middleweight championship bout. It was Khamzat Chimaev, the challenger, versus Dricus du Plessis, the champion. And we just mentioned how a unanimous decision fight and kind of a master class of a skill and a technique can look one way and be so exciting and enjoyable to watch, and then on that same like footing, same apple or same orange. Not comparing apples to oranges, but literally just the same type of domination in a fight that you have that can just not be that enjoyable to watch and it's kind of boring, but you still have to respect how dominant it was. And I'm talking about Khamzat Chimaev's championship victory over Dricus du Plessis, which I originally had him winning by some type of submission. Another one, kind of like the Tim Elliott fight. I expected him to, at least in the second or early in the third round, to maybe get some type of choke, a head and arm triangle, rear naked choke, maybe see him break Dricus du Plessis' face like he did Robert Whitaker. But we didn't get that in this bout. We ended up getting a unanimous decision victory. It was 50-44, 50-44, 50-44. And I imagine that's the refs must have gave Khamzat Chimaev must have been a 10-8 round for one of those rounds to get the 44 there, and that was a title bout that went all 5 rounds, so 5 minute rounds for 25 minutes. So seeing Khamzat Chimaev do that is almost impressive. That's just the victory and the complete domination of Dricus du Plessis that he had in general. Khamzat Chimaev took him down like a dozen times, and got him in. This is a record for sure. I was able to secure crucifix position on Dricus du Plessis 5 times. So I think it was basically he got him in that position like once in every single round. And the thing that was kind of disappointing, and basically just kind of watching a freestyle wrestling match, an Olympic style wrestling is basically what this fight was. And Dricus du Plessis, 30 seconds into every round, couldn't stop a takedown, couldn't stop from getting taken down. But with Khamzat Chimaev being able to get him in some compromising positions in this bout and in this fight multiple times, like a half a dozen times, it looked like might get a submission, or might finish him in the crucifix. It just didn't seem. It seemed like Khamzat Chimaev was kind of on cruise control like the whole fight. Even when he got him in the crucifix, even early and in the second round, he was just kind of pitter patting, little hammer fist, and maybe if he got a little bit of room, he landed a couple good elbows. But it felt like later in the rounds when he got him in that submission, or not submission, that position, it seemed like if he really started raining down some and putting a little bit of mustard behind some of those hammer fist and elbows, which I'll admit Dricus du Plessis did a good job of like hiding his face and hiding his head to where he didn't take a lot of shots. But it definitely seemed like I said, it seemed like Khamzat Chimaev was kind of on cruise control and was very aware and definitely in control of making sure that he didn't gas himself out trying to get the finish. And I definitely think that's what that was from. But man, he still got him in some interesting compromising positions later in the fourth and even in the fifth round. You thought, and late in the fifth round when there was just like a minute left, you would thought that he maybe empty the gas tank and try to get the stoppage, but we didn't get that at all. And Dricus du Plessis barely did anything to Khamzat Chimaev in the first 4 rounds. Barely even landed any significant strikes. Never was able to take him down or get on top on the ground. That all only happened finally in the fifth round, maybe Khamzat Chimaev was slowing down a little bit, or he already knew he was up 4 rounds. Dricus du Plessis was able to land a couple punches, and then he was able to. I think he pulled guard for like a guillotine, and that ended up actually leading with like what was it, like the last like 30 seconds, 15 seconds or so. Dricus du Plessis ended the fight on top. He was on had Khamzat Chimaev like flattened out, and was attempting to go for a rear naked choke, but just didn't have enough time left. And obviously, Khamzat Chimaev's got a great submission defense, so it just wasn't going to happen. So when reading the judges' scorecards here, I'm a little surprised that it wasn't like 59-45 or something, to where I would think that Dricus du Plessis, if he won any round, he maybe won the fifth round, but I guess none of the judges saw it that way. But still, a little anticlimactic after how great the first four fights went, and how highly anticipated this fight was. I think it would have been it would have been nicer if it had been a little bit more of a competitive fight, if Dricus du Plessis maybe would have been able to do more, or if Khamzat Chimaev was able to get some devastating stoppage, would have made that a little more exciting than, uh, just kind of a clear path to victory. Like, I'm gonna wrestle you to death, and that's what he did. But not quite as exciting and as enjoyable to watch as a master class that we saw MVP Michael Page over Jared Cannonier. But that's UFC 319, du Plessis versus Chimaev. Let's just go over uh, bonus awards here, $50,000 bonus. So that's a little surprising that there was no fight of the night, no bonuses. I guess it was just kind of complete domination by, if we were looking to try to dig out what would have been the fight of the night, at least on the pay-per-view. I guess you couldn't really have given it to Michael Page in that fight going to decision, because it wasn't competitive. Not that competitive from Jared Cannonier, and the same with the main event between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis, because it was just complete domination. And then every other fight ended in the first round, or ended up being towards the end of the fight, ended up being pretty much complete domination, because the Tim Elliott Kaio Oscura fight went 4:39 into the second round, but there were really no crazy or wild exchanges leading up to the Tim Elliott guillotine choke submission. So there was no fight of the night, but still, you had three performances of the night, and all three of them were on the main card. So you obviously had Khamzat Chimaev's performance of the night. Like we said, a complete domination masterclass performance. If you want to see Olympic style wrestling, freestyle wrestling, you should go back and watch that and see that's exactly how you would beat someone and get the title, if you have that type of skill. If you're one of these great Russian Muslim fighters. And then Leron Murphy, obviously, actually there's four of the five fights had a performance of the night on the card. And then you had obviously Leron Murphy. They were saying that literally after the fight happened. You had Dana White calling out and saying that to Leron Murphy about his spinning back elbow KO, and also Carlos Prates spinning back KO. Also, Dana White they didn't even have to wait for Dana White to tell them that they got that $50,000 bonus. It was just clear and obvious. And then even Tim Elliott, the last guy on here, to get the impressive submission guillotine choke win in the 4:30 mark, the 4:39 mark of the second round over at least he was at least a couple months ago, and probably maybe still coming into this fight, and and still globally kind of a highly touted superstar coming over from a different organization and completely getting dominated again and almost put to sleep. He almost didn't tap soon enough, just like he didn't tap from the rear naked choke of Pantoja. So he almost got put to sleep a second time in a row. But that's UFC 319, du Plessis versus Chimaev. Let's just look how far away we are. UFC 320 here. So there's a couple, I guess, some decent fight nights mixed in here. I guess we're kind of far away from yeah. So we're all the way. I guess yeah. So we're like almost a month and a half away. So there's a little bit of a break in between there of pay-per-views. So that's kind of interesting. But we have a UFC 320, Magmod Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira, which I was a huge Alex Pereira fan. He was the hottest superstar in the UFC just like a year ago. So that's a highly touted bout, and I would really enjoy seeing Alex Pereira maybe getting that belt back, or maybe being a little bit more of a competitive fight than when Magmod Ankalaev was just holding on to him and pushing him up against the cage and trying to take him down the whole fight. What wasn't that an incredibly enjoyable fight to watch. And then we have also for the bantamweight championship bout title, we have Murad Daswili, the champion, versus Corey Sandhagen. Maybe another fighter in the bantamweight division that can maybe match him cardio for cardio. So maybe that's what you need to be able to beat Murad Daswili. So yeah, I'm excited for UFC 320. I think them taking a break in between there, a little bit longer of a break, you get those 2-3 extra weeks, helps you have an impressive card like all the way through. You don't have a just top heavy card where it's like really it's the main event or nothing really. And luckily with UFC 319, you had a bunch of great fights and crazy stoppages leading up to the top heavy card with just the Chimaev du Plessis fight, because you definitely could have agreed or argued that was a bit of kind of anticlimactic to such a wild night. But you don't have that on this card because you have the a co-main event and the main event are title bouts, and then I mean you got Yari Prohaschek and Khalil Roundtree on this card, probably both fighting for who's next for Magmod Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. So good card, but looks like we'll have to wait a little while before we get it. It's actually almost, so it's October 4th, 2025, and this card that we had just had was, let's see, it was what that date was here. I said like a month and a half, but close to 2 months, because UFC 319 du Plessis versus Chimaev was August 16th, 2025. So like a month and like 3 weeks, but I think it'll be worth it. It looks with what the card is, and if nothing falls off, no one gets injured or has to pull out, it looks like it'll be one of the better cards of this year, and I think that has a lot to do with taking a little bit of break, even though you have a fight night like every Saturday leading up to it. But still, I like that card, and I'm you know me, highly anticipated for the next card, and we could just wish and dream to have as good of predictions as we did on 319. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you this evening. So can I get a check, please?